Hello, my long-lived friends. Today, I wanted to continue on my fasting experiment, telling you guys about my experience so far. I'm on my 5th day today, and I wanted to tell you also about what you could expect if it's your first time fasting for what's called periodic fasting or extended fasts. So, before I say that though, on the last video, so this is the 3rd video in a series. I'll continue the series until I stop my fast, just to sort of document my experience and let you guys know what's going on and give people who are more averse to fasting or unsure if they can do it some encouragement. But I want you guys to know there's 2 previous episodes on this. The first one was my long-lived podcast, 1 hour and a half long talk, all about fasting, my experience with fasting, my views on fasting, the reasons why I think certain things. In the second episode, which was day 3, I received some questions in the comment section that showed that people had not watched the first one. And all your questions about fasting in general will probably be answered in the first one. So I'm just sort of, updating you guys on my experience so far. So today is the morning of the 5th day. Normally every month I used to stop on the 5th day in the evening. Which would be actually, but anyway, I usually used to stop in the evening. Oh, by the way, someone mentioned to me on the last video that that I'm not coherent. I am actually still coherent. The problem is it's really difficult to talk to a camera by yourself, which is one of the reasons I like to be accompanied by my wife Lucie in my videos, because it's more natural to talk to somebody. You really have to be either someone that used to talk to mirrors when you were younger or something to really find this easy, to be honest. I'm getting, I think, a little bit better at it. If you watch my sleep series or my cholinergic series, I was really stunned by just staring at a camera talking, but I'm still not very good at it, so I ramble and I go around all over the place, and especially when I don't have notes. So no, but my brain function is actually still going fine. So let me first tell you guys how my experience was the first time I started fasting again in my adulthood, the first time I fasted for a week, how I felt on days 3 and 4, so that you can know if you've never fasted for a long time before. How I felt, which I recall very accurately. The first 2 days I was still thinking about food, right? I was not only thinking about food, but I was also hungry, but more thinking about food. On the 3rd and 4th day, I stopped thinking about food, or maybe I was still thinking about food very little, like once or twice a day, but I wasn't hungry anymore. And this is, I believe, a result of becoming ketogenic. Depending on fats in the body, the brain no longer sending you warning signals that it is running low on glucose, and also you having burnt off a lot of the glycogen that you have in your body. Now, the first 2 days are also, from what we know from studies as well as practitioners, seems to be the time where a lot of the visceral fat is burnt off. So what you'll notice after your first 2 days on the fast is your midsection, even if you have subcutaneous fat, which means fat under your skin, you'll notice your midsection will get much smaller. And that's not just because you've went to the bathroom and not eaten, but also because you're really preferentially burning the fat in your midsection. On the 3rd and 4th day, it gets much easier. And at this point, on the 3rd and 4th day, it gets much easier. And at this point, you're still not so exhausted that your mind starts becoming dull. So now the first time I did it, my mind was did become a little bit dull. By the first 2 days, my mind was even better than normal, because I don't know why. You have a lot of energy from the noradrenaline, and you also have, and the cortisol as well, to be honest, and you also have a clearer way of thinking because you're becoming ketogenic. You may become ketogenic in the first day. So the first 2 days, my thinking used to be really clear. Then the 3rd and 4th days, it used to get a little bit slower. And I'll tell you how it happens after in later videos. But in this time, after having done these fasts, 5-day fasts and 1 week long fast before several times, I no longer get the brain fog, or not brain fog. What happens is you get issues with memory and recall. Basically, it seems like your brain is not firing on all cylinders. And it seems like there's some delay in communication, as if you have less neurotransmitters, or your axons are less efficient, or something like that. So it really hasn't happened to me yet, to be honest with you. But what has happened, which is interesting, I didn't really feel it that much on the last couple of fasts, is I feel a little bit low energy. I don't know why this is happening to me on this fast specifically. I did notice one thing. So I tried to take all of my supplements like I normally do, and I discovered that it was causing me some gastrointestinal distress. So it was really actually very unpleasant. So I don't know if that was the reason why I have a little bit less energy this time than I usually do. In the first fast, also I should mention, I felt a little lightheaded on days 3 and 4, and the lightheadedness, I'll tell you later. But in the the third and fourth day, the lightheadedness began a little bit. Lightheadedness comes from having lower blood pressure, specifically. So instead of taking potassium, you need to be taking sodium. Now, I used to either pour sodium in a drink or take a sodium tablet. You can order sodium tablets on Amazon. They're very easy to use. And sodium helps you retain that water in your body that prevents your blood pressure from dropping too much. So that's one easy solution. And you also take magnesium, as I discussed in my first video, at around 800 milligrams a day of citrate. But if you take too much magnesium, like I did recently, you end up having some gastrointestinal distress. So anyway, long story short, basically, I'm a little lightheaded, but my brain is functioning fine. I'm not actually very lightheaded. I'm just a little low energy. And I've reduced my supplement intake. So I'm no longer taking as many things as I was taking. And now I'm just taking just a sort of a multi-mineral, a basic multi-mineral, which actually one of my consulting clients sent to me. Thank you. And usually I don't take a multi-mineral because I try to avoid selenium mainly. This one doesn't have iron. But anyway, I'm taking that. I'm taking various vitamins that are not fat soluble or that are hydrophilic, that do fine in water. Because if you take anything that's lipophilic, which means it needs fat to be absorbed properly, it won't get absorbed. So for example, I can't take my resveratrol. One day I may consider consuming a little bit of fat during my fast just to take the resveratrol. But anyway, so I'm taking those supplements. There's a couple of more things I wanted to tell you guys, but I probably should have noted them ahead of time. Yeah, I just remembered what I was going to say. So it took me a second. Well, maybe my brain is actually slowing down. And no, it's just that I haven't written notes and it's hard to talk in front of the camera. But anyway, I want to tell you guys, someone commented on one of the videos saying taking antioxidants during your fast could reduce the amount of targeted cell death that you experience, which is called cell apoptosis. And this is very true. I discussed this in my first video on the series, the podcast one that was an hour and a half long. I used to think that myself. After seeing Walter Longo's work, where people are consuming phytochemicals that are antioxidants and still experiencing a tremendous amount of benefits, I realized that I'm fasting every single month for quite a significant amount of time. Even if I blunt the amount of targeted cell death a little bit, I'm still getting a lot of the autophagy. I'm probably not ending up much worse. I'm probably still getting enough benefit. It may dampen the stress of the fast, and the stress of the fast is generally, if we break it down to one thing, that's what's causing everything, but it doesn't affect the nutrient sensing pathways, which are the main things associated with the disease that we know of conclusively, right? I do want targeted cell death, but you know, to be honest with you, I've had a lot of targeted cell death in my lifetime, so I'm not as concerned about that as I am with some other things. So that's one thing. I can't remember what else I was going to tell you guys, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it was somehow encouraging. To be honest with you, I only started feeling like I was fasting maybe yesterday a little bit. I'm not feeling any difficulty with the fast whatsoever. I just started feeling like, oh, I'm on a fast. My sleep is reduced a little bit, but the depth of sleep is not very bad. And I'm very relaxed and I'm enjoying it. However, actually, one thing I should mention. Okay, this is what I was going to mention. So I don't know if I should do a separate video on this. No, I don't want to, because it will seem like a kind of clout video thing. So let me just mention it here and not title it. So there's this guy. Actually, I don't remember his name. Anyway, the guy was fasting for 40 days. I have no idea what his name is, to be honest. But I never knew about him before. Someone commented on the last video about him. So I looked at his videos a little bit because I was very curious. And a couple of things. First of all, someone was saying he's not losing that much weight. Oh, I didn't mention my weight today, by the way. I'm 169 pounds today. So I started at 184. Of course, I super compensated with carbohydrates, and I'm very insulin sensitive, so I was holding a lot of carbohydrates. I'm also salt sensitive, so that's why I lost that much. Normally, I wouldn't have lost that much. Normally, I would have started at 173, and probably by today, which is the morning of the 5th day, I would have been about maybe 168 or something like that. So I started way higher. I'm at 169 right now. But anyway, there's this guy who I have no idea. Now I'm actually going to include his name in the titles just so people know what I'm talking about. But there's this guy who fasted for 40 days and he put it on a live stream and someone commented on it. And I went and checked out his videos. And people have actually been mentioning him a lot recently in my videos because apparently he's into psychedelics also. I didn't watch those videos, but I did see some of his updates on the fast, and I did look at him. Someone was commenting saying he didn't lose that much weight and he may not have really been fasting. The way he looks to me, he really looks like he did fast for 40 days. I've seen a lot of the calorie restriction people, and they have a similar phenotype as him, which is they get deep wrinkles in their face because there's so little fat in their face. He does have this appearance. He also shows that he still has fat in his abdomen, which is consistent with being on a very long fast. Your body will retain some of that fat and start burning some of the muscle as well. He also did maintain a lot of muscle, but you can see on his live stream that he's sitting working out all the time. And as I told you guys before, if you work out while you fast, you lose much less muscle. So I don't disbelieve that, but what I do want to comment on briefly is I am not a psychiatrist, but I know a lot, an unusual amount about psychiatry probably, and I'm very interested in mental disease, and he does seem to have a mental illness in my opinion, which is just my opinion, but he exhibits the signs of what's called mania. Mania can occur with schizophrenia as well as with bipolar disorder. In schizophrenia though, the distinguishing factor is that people have hallucinations, whereas in bipolar disorder, mania could be it could take many forms, but it could include very passionate beliefs about something new that people think someone thinks is life-changing. So really, this fellow who I can't remember his name, I'll put it in the video title. He is basically, in my opinion, probably has overactive dopamine in his brain. How a psychiatrist would treat this is they would give him an atypical antipsychotic, something like Seroquel, which blocks dopamine receptors. And also these atypical antipsychotics block other receptors in the brain. Some of them block more than others. They're basically tranquilizers. But the main effect is to block dopamine, and that reduces the mania and stuff like that. So from watching him talk, the impression I get is that he's in a manic state, and that's what's fueling his drive toward... The things he's saying is not crazy. I mean, fasting has been a big part of all the religious traditions that I know of in history, specifically something called asceticism, which is not, or maybe asceticism, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's not, it has no TH in it, it's ASCETIC. That's, yeah, that's ascetic. So I think so. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if I'm spelling it right, but the point is, ascetics are people who are like monks and stuff like that go out. Originally, a lot of them were in Egypt during the time that Egypt was mostly Christian. And actually, that's where the monk tradition in Christianity came from the Egyptian monks that used to go out. See, Egypt got Christianity because there were a lot of Jews in Egypt living there at the time. And the Christianity began in Jerusalem, but also expanded in Syria, which was then in the Eastern Roman Empire, and also it expanded very quickly into Egypt because there were a lot of Jews in Egypt, and the first Christians were of course Jews, so Egypt got Christianity really early. So many of the Christians, early Egyptian Christians, would go into the desert and live there for the purpose of sort of purifying themselves, worshiping God, focusing on God. And one of the elements of that was imposing suffering on themselves. So they would fast for extended periods, and that's where the fasting tradition in Christianity came from. So this is in Christianity, it's also in a lot of Indian religions. I don't know as much about the East Asian religions, but Jainism in the Indian religions, as well as Hinduism, potentially even the recent religion Sikhism, but I'm not sure. But anyway, these religions all have fasting in them. So it's a very spiritual thing. But what you can see is when he talks about spirituality, he doesn't have very concrete views of it. And you can see the excitement in him. This is really a clear sign of dopamine. And he has more of an emotional, enthusiastic, happy, and anyway, so that's... Now, I heard that, I didn't watch those videos, but I heard that he took psilocybin or some kind of hallucinogen before this experience happened. And yes, that's extremely common. I know people who have taken hallucinogens, including specifically psilocybin from magic mushrooms, and became bipolar. And had an experience where for years they had to take atypical antipsychotics. It also happens from marijuana, but it's very common with LSD and mushrooms. Doesn't happen to everyone. For example, it would never happen to me, even though I have low GABAergic signaling naturally, which seems to be, I mentioned this in the marijuana video that I've done, which I should link here, but having low GABAergic signaling usually is associated with more likelihood of becoming schizophrenic or specifically schizophrenic from these drugs. And I do seem to have that, but I don't experience these things myself. So when I warn you guys, it doesn't mean that everybody gets it. It just means that you probably won't know if you do get it. And if you take what's called a hero's dose, which is a very high dose of these drugs so that you hallucinate, you may end up in that situation, unfortunately. So I do think that that's what's happened to him. But anyway, I wanted to update you guys since a lot of people were asking about that. I do think he's on a real fast. But one thing is, watching his videos made me think about it. I said, damn, okay, I don't want to go that far because like I said in the first video, I don't want to hurt my brain at all. And I've had this feeling for a long time that a fast over 2 weeks may be causing some neurodegeneration. So I don't know how long I'm going to go. Like I said, when I start to be concerned that I'm harming myself, I'm going to stop. Because the reason for this experiment is just sort of to fast for more than a week, so I don't regularly meet people that have fasted for longer than me, just for the sake of it, not really for health reasons. I don't really feel like someone needs to go, more than 10 days for health reasons. But we're going to try it and see how it goes, but I'm not going to harm myself. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.